featured Daniel Ricciardo to Renault, a road to redemption or regret? It's almost like it's making up for lost time. We have had quite the shuffle for 2019, with only 2 of the 10 teams fielding an unchanged driver lineup and 4 of the 10 racing completely different pairings. But in terms of shock value, one move trumped them all. Daniel Ricciardo, as far as everyone was concerned, was going to remain at Red Bull, even had in his bag a contract extension ready to sign as he and everyone else went off on their summer breaks. Only then did he have some form of Damascene conversion and dropped the bombshell that he was off. And to Renault, hardly the most likely destination. Ricci was as surprised as anyone. As ever, hindsight is 20/20, and we lost little time piecing together conjecture on what his motivation might have been. Overarching was that it was clear the way the wind was blowing down Milton Keynes' way, Red Bull was very much becoming Max Verstappen's team. The prodigious Dutchman wasn't due to get any slower either. Yet Renault had charms of its own. It is a manufacturer team, and we're told repeatedly that in this hybrid era that's what you need to win. And he may catch the wave at exactly the right moment as it rises, just as Lewis Hamilton did with Mercedes and Michael Schumacher did before that with Ferrari. Daniel Ricciardo, as far as everyone was concerned, was going to remain at Red Bull, even had in his bag a contract extension ready to sign. Only then did he have some form of Damascene conversion. Ricci was as surprised as anyone. There is no doubt Renault is on the rise. This year it was F1's high climber, from 57 points and 6th place in the standings in 2017 to 122 points and 4th this time. And these are almost unrecognizable from the mere 8 points accumulated in 2016 when Team Stone was starting its long road to recovery from chronic underinvestment under previous ownership. But even so, reality is not to be denied. There's good reason that we keep talking about Class A and Class B in F1 these days, and for all that Renault was the convincing winner of Class B this year, its deficit to Class A remains a chasm. The Renault, just like the rest of its class, was in 18 still commonly lapped by the leaders in races. In the Abu Dhabi season closer, a fine drive by Carlos Sainz to 6th still got him to the flag 1 minute and 12 seconds after the winner. And it would have been even more without the early safety car period. While even with the rise in points mentioned, Renault still totaled some 297 fewer than third-placed Red Bull, while team principal Cyril Abiteboul admitted mid-season that although Renault's strides this year got it to the head of Class B, they did nothing to get it nearer to Class A's pace. He admitted to some frustration at that situation too. The aerodynamic revisions for next year may shuffle things a little bit for a time, but it still is unlikely that the gap will be bridgeable in the short term. Certainly not over a single close season. Renault is a manufacturer team, and we're told repeatedly that in this hybrid era that's what you need to win. And he may catch the wave at exactly the right moment as it rises, just as Lewis Hamilton did with Mercedes. They've got to find over a lap per race basically, Martin Brundle noted after the Abu Dhabi race, and they're not aiming at a static goalpost either, because Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull are not going to stand still over the winter. Another thing we're always told about modern-day F1 is that money talks. It goes a long way to explaining the 2 tiers mentioned indeed. And Renault's wedge is significantly smaller still than those of the front-running teams, at around 60-70 of the level. An auto build analysis at the season's start had its annual budget at just negation 200 million, some way short of Mercedes's negation 450 meters and Ferrari's negation 430 meters. It was even behind McLaren''s and So how about Renault increases the funds to match those ahead? In my opinion, Renault can afford pretty much anything, Abitable confirms. Renault is the largest car maker involved in Formula One full stop. But there's a problem. Renault has chosen not to spend on that level, instead hoping that a budget cap is introduced to F1 as part of the much-anticipated 2021 overhaul. It's going to be difficult to go massively up if you have to go down again, Abitable added earlier this year. They've got to find over a lap per race basically, and they're not aiming at a static goalpost either because Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull are not going to stand still over the winter, Martin Brundle. A budget cap will put the onus on the efficiency of the organization. Efficiency is the key word for the acceleration of what Kingstone has to do on the chassis side. We can afford anything as long as it makes sense. Then it's just a question of value for money and whether it makes sense to spend that, given where we are in the development of our team. We don't have the sort of very complex full-car dyno to test the engine in its ultimate environment. That's something we are looking at. We think it's a bit unreasonable to have to invest in such equipment, but if we have to do it, we will eventually do it. We would prefer that the FIA takes action not to encourage crazy investment like that. So things might fall into place for Renault, but it relies on something outside of its control. And that something is F1 introducing something that it's tried unsuccessfully for at least the last decade to introduce. Without it, the probability is Renault will remain shy of more lavish rivals. Maybe it's ridiculous that a budget of €200 million plus should be inadequate to race two cars 21 times a year, Mark Hughes mused. But that's the environment in which Renault has chosen to compete. Renault has chosen not to spend on the level of Mercedes and Ferrari, instead hoping that a budget cap is introduced to F1 as part of the much-anticipated 2021 overhaul. Renault's persistent struggles with the engine were 5 years into the hybrid regulations. It shows little sign of getting on terms with the best units, and now by consensus it lags behind even Honda may also be instructive. Max Verstappen commented recently that Honda's engine budget is many times bigger than Renault's. Abitable admitted that Renault underestimated the potential of the current engine regulations, though promises to take more risks to close the gap. And for all that, with Ricciardo to Renault we draw parallels with Hamilton's and Schumacher's timing it just right moves mentioned. It's possible that it's the very fact that they were unusual in their success that makes them stand out. History has at least as many, probably many more in fact, cases of heroic switches from a winning squad to one supposedly on the way up emphatically not coming off. And the driver indeed has then struggled to repair the resultant career damage. Fernando Alonso to McLaren we know about. We can add Jacques Villeneuve to Bar, Emerson Fittipaldi to Copersucar and Chris Albon to March. While if Ricciardo indeed departed Red Bull for Max-related reasons, he won't necessarily find his new abode a complete relief. His impending teammate Nico Hülkenberg remains highly rated, unfathomably ignored by the top teams, and has spent his time since arriving at Renault trouncing stablemates. I'm a big fan of Nico Hülkenberg's, Brundle adds. I think he'll give Daniel Ricciardo a good run for his money actually. I'd put my money on Ricciardo, but he'll be no walkover. For the team there also are suddenly instances of Harold Macmillan's events, dear boy, events to phase 2. Renault CEO and chairman Carlos Ghosn was arrested recently over allegations of financial impropriety. Ghosn was a big enthusiast of the F1 project, and indeed Renault Sport president Jerome Stoll reported directly to him. Abitable insists it won't impact the F1 team, but at the very least it's unlikely to help. Neither will that Stoll, separately, is retiring at the end of the year. I'm a big fan of Nico Hülkenberg's. I think he'll give Daniel Ricciardo a good run for his money actually. I'd put my money on Ricciardo, but he'll be no walkover. Martin Brundle. Yet whatever else is happening, the ambition at Renault remains in place, and this includes what it outlined when it returned as a constructor, that it is to fight for championships as the conclusion of its current long-term plan. Ricciardo's recruitment is part of this, as is that Marcin Budkowski joins from the FIA to head up its technical department. And the team's public pronouncements betray confidence. Basically, the challenge I'm giving to our team, to everyone, including myself, is to be able in the medium-term future to compete with the top teams with 85% of their capability and resources, Abidab added. That goes in terms of budget, but also in terms of headcount. I'm not trying to match what Mercedes has or what Red Bull has, just for the sake of matching. I'm trying also to do what they are doing in a more efficient way, which has always been the way Renault has been doing Formula 1. It can't be an arms race. We will continue to grow. I'm trying to make a sensible judgment of what's sustainable for a Formula 1 team in a medium to long-term future, without jeopardizing our capacity to fight for championships by 2020 or 2021. I thought Alain Prost seemed particularly punchy when I was talking to him on the grid and confident about next year, Martin Brundle. Hülkenberg wasn't accepting either that the gap Renault faces to the front is to be taken as a fact of life. These guys are still in the race. Yes, you say they have much bigger budgets, much more resources, but they're still in the race, and to win you have to beat them all, don't you? He said post Abu Dhabi. We'll take it, heading Class B, for now, but obviously we want to be up there playing the music with the big boys in the future. Brundle thinks something might indeed be afoot. I thought Alain Prost, Renault's special advisor, seemed particularly punchy when I was talking to him on the grid and confident about next year. As they say, watch this space. Next news feature, Michael Schumacher's personal collection on display in Cologne. Motorsport Week reflects on a recent visit to Motor World Cologne, Rhineland, where Michael Schumacher's personal collection of memorabilia is on display. The Motor World exhibition complex is in a newly constructed nondescript industrial estate, across the road from an IKEA, in a northern suburb of Cologne, a stone's throw away from the town of Kerpen, where Schumacher grew up, and where the famous kart circuit is located. An assortment of title-winning Ferraris is the main attraction. Most of Motor World, which is a converted aircraft hangar, is given over to an exhibition hall and a meticulously clean showroom that houses classic cars, which in itself is an attraction, but in the upstairs section is a free-to-visit museum in which there are 12 original Formula 1 cars, helmets, and trophies driven, worn and won by, statistically, the greatest driver to have competed in the championship. Some of Schumacher's early single-seaters are present, along with the 1990 Sauber Mercedes sports car that he raced, but undoubtedly the star attractions are the Formula 1 machines. The sleek green liveried Jordan 191, regularly regarded as one of the most beautiful racing cars of all time, kickstarts a showcase of machines that culminates in an assortment of scarlet Ferraris that defined a generation. An entire cabinet is given over to Schumacher's trophy collection, providing an impressive display of silverware, each pot with their own story to tell. Two are given their own special place in the center of the building. One, understandably, is a replica of the 2004 World Championship trophy, or the original. If some stories are to be believed, while the other is the winner's trophy from the 2000 Japanese Grand Prix, the stunning victory that sealed his first world title with Ferrari, and third overall. The race-winning Benetton B192 from 1992. Schumacher's helmets and caps also take pride of place. The all-red designs are the iconic pieces, but also present are some special editions, his early white and blue schemes and also a red wig. Why? The seemingly odd headwear was what he sported on the podium in Malaysia 19 years ago to celebrate Ferrari wrapping up the Constructors' Championship. There are also more left-field items, such as a wall dedicated to a collage of press clippings, and a cabinet that contains several FIA passes belonging to Schumacher and his wife. There is, though, an underlying sadness to the exhibition on account of the unspoken and unwritten events that unfolded 5 years ago, and which have robbed the racing world of Schumacher's presence in the public eye. This is his personal collection made public, a gift from family to fans, and it is evocative to walk among the plethora of memorabilia that defined a generation. If you are ever in the region, it is worth a visit, but failing that, it is now possible to take a virtual tour of the museum through the official Michael Schumacher app, launched by his family to celebrate his 50th birthday. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to share and subscribe to your channel to get the latest sports news around the world. Wished health and success. Goodbye.